But for one collector, a single 1991 D. Lincoln penny almost vanished into the depths of obscurity. This coin, unremarkable at first glance, would soon shake the coin world to its core, and one man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Imagine holding something in your hand worth over $1 million, something most people pass by without a second thought. That's exactly what happened when this 1991 D penny was discovered. Dealers were shocked. Collectors were scrambling. And the story behind this coin is stranger than fiction. It all begins with a tiny detail, almost invisible to the naked eye. The 1991 D. Lincoln penny is known among experts for a subtle but critical minting anomaly. A die crack here, an off-center strike there. The differences are slight, but they create a ripple that turns a humble 1-cent coin into $1 million treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One collector, searching through a box of old change, noticed a shimmer that caught his eye. It wasn't the gleam of a new penny, nor the usual tarnish of circulation. It was a glint that whispered a secret worth millions. He didn't realize it at first, but the coin he held was destined to make history. The backstory of this coin is almost mystical. Minted in Denver in 1991, most pennies of this year quietly entered circulation and were forgotten. But a handful, struck under slightly imperfect conditions, developed unique characteristics that make them extraordinarily rare. These anomalies weren't noticed for decades, until collectors and auction houses started to take notice. Collectors were shocked when the first auction record surfaced. A single 1991 D. Lincoln penny, bearing the telltale minting error, sold for hundreds of thousands. But as word spread, demand skyrocketed. The coin world realized they were looking at a phenomenon, a rare anomaly capable of commanding over $1 million. And here's the twist that makes this story so extraordinary. Unlike coins tucked away in private collections, this penny was almost destroyed. It had circulated, passed from pocket to pocket, sometimes hidden under couch cushions, occasionally mistaken for a common cent. It survived by sheer luck, like a tiny relic of history waiting for the right person to recognize its true value. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The 1991 D. Lincoln penny has a slight doubling on the date and the mint mark, a subtle misalignment that can be seen under careful magnification. To the untrained eye, it looks ordinary. But to a collector in the know, it is a key that opens the door to unimaginable wealth. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle because he knew what to look for. Imagine the thrill of realizing that a coin you carry every day could be your ticket to financial freedom. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these pennies. The value isn't just historical or sentimental, it's life-changing, but the story doesn't end there. Some of these pennies have surfaced in the most unlikely places. A dusty jar in a grandmother's kitchen, a forgotten box in an old safe, even a roll of pennies found in a thrift store. Each discovery sends shockwaves through the coin community because every 1991 D. Lincoln penny with this anomaly has the potential to fetch over $1 million at auction. The emotional journey for collectors is intense. Some have waited decades, scrutinizing every coin, learning the subtle signs, perfecting their knowledge. And then, when they find one, the realization is almost overwhelming. This is the kind of moment that turns ordinary lives upside down, the kind of discovery that stories are made of. Here's the critical lesson for anyone watching. To identify a 1991 D. Lincoln penny worth millions, first check the mint mark. It must be a D for Denver. Then, examine the date closely. Look for tiny doubling or misalignment, especially around the 9 and the 1. The edges may have a faint die crack, sometimes forming a line from the rim inward. Compare it to standard pennies from the same year, and look for differences in strike depth and texture. Mistakes are common, and many coins are misattributed. Some collectors think they have a valuable penny, but it's just normal wear or a minor discoloration. The $1 million coins are precise in their errors, consistent, verifiable, and recognized by experts in the field. Knowing these details can be the difference between a worthless cent and a fortune in your hands. And now comes the part that sends chills through every coin enthusiast. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now. A coin that has survived decades, traveled through countless hands, and remained unnoticed is waiting for someone who knows its worth. waiting for that one extraordinary discovery that changes a life forever. Dealers and collectors alike have stories of people finding pennies in the most mundane places and suddenly realizing they are holding over $1 million. Imagine that, an ordinary day transformed into an extraordinary revelation. The thrill, the disbelief, the joy, all packed into a single, humble coin. So when you check your pocket change next, pay attention. Look closely. That 1991 D. Lincoln penny may appear ordinary, but its hidden anomaly could make it one of the most valuable coins in the world. This isn't just about money. It's about history, rarity, and the electric thrill of discovery. Collectors have said that holding a coin like this is like touching a piece of a secret past, a tiny artifact of American history that somehow survived the chaos of time and circulation. And the emotional resonance is undeniable, because you're not just holding metal, you're holding $1 million story. Every second that passes, there are people searching, examining, hoping to find the next 1991 D. Lincoln penny. The competition is fierce, and the rewards are enormous. Each coin carries the potential for a new life, a new beginning, and the chance to join the elite group of collectors who've turned small cents into life-altering fortunes. So take a moment. Look at your coins. Examine them, study them, appreciate them. One tiny detail could be your key. And if you find that extraordinary penny, remember this: what you're holding in your hand is more than just change. It's history, it's mystery, it's $1 million miracle. A single penny, minted in 2014, tucked away in someone's pocket, forgotten in a jar on the kitchen counter, suddenly capable of transforming an ordinary life into a millionaire's story. Collectors across the country are still reeling from this discovery, and the stories behind it are as mysterious as they are jaw-dropping. It all starts with a small, almost invisible flaw. The 2014 D. Lincoln penny was supposed to be just another coin in circulation, a familiar face in every change jar. But a tiny error at the Denver Mint created something extraordinary. A misstrike, barely noticeable to the untrained eye, but enough to make coin dealers' hearts race. Some say it was a double die, others whisper about a shifted die strike. Whatever the exact technicality, this coin is so rare that only a handful exist. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One collector, a man who had been casually sorting pennies for decades, pulled this coin from a roll he'd bought at a bank. At first glance, it looked like any other penny. He tossed it into his collection folder and went about his day. That night, he did what any serious collector might do. He inspected it under magnification. And that's when he saw it: a subtle misalignment of the date and mint mark that should not exist. His pulse raced. This was no ordinary find. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on this coin. Auction houses have already listed prices starting in the six-figure range, and experts predict it could fetch nearly $1.8 million in a private sale. The frenzy is real. Stories of people checking their pockets, their drawers, even their couch cushions have flooded the coin-collecting community. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and collectors everywhere are now questioning every penny in their possession. Here's the most shocking part. This coin has a story that traces back to a moment of chaos at the Denver Mint. Production lines were running late, and a batch of pennies was struck with slightly off-center dies. Most were quickly destroyed or corrected, but a few slipped through unnoticed. That's the coin we're talking about. Hidden for years, waiting for someone lucky or observant enough to spot its incredible potential. And the timing couldn't be more dramatic. Right when people were convinced that pennies had lost their value, this error surfaced, reminding the world that sometimes history hides in the most ordinary places. Collectors were shocked. Even seasoned numismatists couldn't believe that a 2014 penny could carry this kind of hidden worth. But it does. And now, every time someone opens a roll of pennies, there's a thrill, a tiny chance of life-changing fortune hidden in plain sight. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The D. Mint mark, normally so mundane, is slightly shifted. The date appears doubled under magnification. These subtle imperfections are the fingerprints of a once-in-a-lifetime misstrike. Ignore them, and you might overlook your chance at a fortune. Study them, and you could hold a piece of history and wealth in your hand. Imagine the scene when the first auction went live. Collectors from across the country logged in, phones buzzing, bids climbing higher with every second. People were whispering, some even cheering, as the penny climbed toward its staggering price. For one family, a coin pulled from a jar became the story of their lifetime. A conversation starter, a treasure, a symbol of patience, luck, and knowledge. The value isn't just about rarity. It's about recognition. Most people dismiss pennies, unaware that some coins, because of tiny flaws, can be worth more than a house, more than a car, more than anything they've ever imagined. The 2014 D. Lincoln penny is a reminder that sometimes the ordinary holds extraordinary secrets. Collectors are obsessed with tracing these errors. They examine the edges, inspect the die alignment, scrutinize every curve of Lincoln's profile. Each detail matters. And while many try to predict the next million-dollar coin, this 2014 D penny has already rewritten the rules. It's proof that fortune favors the observant, the patient, and the curious. One man's casual hobby became a multi-million-dollar revelation. And the lesson is clear: never underestimate the coins in your pocket. What looks like spare change could be a ticket to unimaginable wealth. But spotting it takes knowledge, attention, and a keen eye for the smallest deviations. This isn't just collecting. It's treasure hunting in its purest form. So how do you know if you found the real thing? Start by checking the mint mark. The D should appear slightly off-center. Examine the date. Look for a doubling effect under magnification. Check the edges and the profile of Lincoln. Even the smallest misalignment can be the key. Avoid common mistakes, not using a magnifying tool, dismissing minor imperfections, or assuming a coin is worthless simply because it looks ordinary. Every detail counts. Dealers have shared secret tips on authentication. They recommend using a high-powered loupe, comparing your penny to verified reference photos, and consulting trusted grading companies. Mistakes in verification can cost millions, so diligence is essential. This coin isn't just rare, it's a lesson in patience and precision. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. That rusted jar of pennies, the spare change you ignore, could be your gateway to life-changing fortune. Every coin is a potential treasure, and every penny tells a story. The 2014 D. Lincoln penny proves that miracles do happen in the most ordinary of places, and sometimes, the most mundane coin holds the power to rewrite history and your future. But sold for nearly $1 million. Imagine holding a piece of pocket change that could instantly change your life. That's exactly what happened with one seemingly ordinary 1979 Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looked just like the coins jingling in your pocket, the ones you barely notice. But one tiny detail made all the difference. One small imperfection turned a common penny into $1 million treasure. It all started in the late 1970s, a year when the U.S. Mint was churning out billions of pennies. Most of these coins would have no story, no special value, just metal and date. But somewhere in the process, a rare misstep occurred, a misstep that almost nobody noticed at the time. A batch of pennies was struck without a mint mark, something collectors later realized was extraordinarily unusual. Most pennies from 1979 carry a mint mark, so a coin missing this tiny symbol suddenly became a whisper of history, a hidden secret waiting to be uncovered. Collectors were shocked when word of the first discovery spread. Imagine walking into a coin shop with a handful of pennies, only to have the dealer's eyes widen in disbelief. "Where did you find this?" they asked. One man had simply been sorting his loose change, thinking nothing of the coins he'd carried in his wallet for decades. Little did he know, he was holding what could be worth $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. This was no ordinary coin flipping through the hands of collectors. It began showing up at auctions, and the bids escalated faster than anyone could have imagined. The story of a humble penny suddenly became a tale of astronomical value. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on these coins, and collectors who had ignored their pocket change were scrambling to inspect every single 1979 penny they owned. It wasn't just the missing mint mark that made this penny so valuable. Tiny differences in the design, the angle of Lincoln's profile, the depth of the lettering, and the shine of the metal all mattered. Experts discovered that certain pennies had been struck with slight errors during production, mistakes that the mint never intended. These subtle quirks became the secret signatures of a coin that could turn ordinary pocket change into a $1 million miracle. Imagine the tension at one particular auction. A collector held up his 1979 no-mint mark penny, and the room went silent. Every bidder knew the stakes. They had all read the stories, seen the previous sales, and understood that this coin was no ordinary collectible. When the gavel finally fell, the penny sold for an amount that seemed almost impossible, approaching $1 million. Gasps filled the room. Phones rang off the hook. One man's chance discovery had made him unimaginably wealthy in a single moment. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The absence of the mint mark is the first clue, but there are others. You need to check the edges, the date, and the subtle variations in the strike. A penny that looks normal to the untrained might hide a flaw that collectors are willing to pay fortunes for. Even seasoned dealers sometimes overlook these details, which is why every 1979 no-mint mark penny must be examined under magnification and with patience. One woman recounted her story of finding such a penny in a jar she'd kept since childhood. She had completely forgotten about it, assuming it was just loose change. When she took it to a local coin shop, the dealer's face turned pale. "You could be holding $1 million right here," he said. That moment, that realization, was almost too much to comprehend. She had held on to a treasure for decades without even knowing it. But here's the thing that keeps collectors awake at night. Not all 1979 no-mint mark pennies are created equal. Some have scratches, some have wear, some are simply ordinary. The ones worth millions are pristine, rare, and carry the subtle imperfections that make them unique. That's why experts advise looking for coins with a deep, sharp strike, clean edges, and no visible damage. Even a tiny blemish can reduce the value dramatically, so attention to detail is everything. Think about the journey of this coin, from the mint's pressing machines to a collector's hand decades later. It could have been lost in a couch cushion, slipped through a vending machine, or been tossed in a pocket without a second thought. And yet, here it is, waiting for the right person to recognize its worth. Every penny tells a story, but the 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln penny tells a story that could rewrite a life. Collectors often share tales of near misses, people who tossed these coins, thinking they were worthless. One man recalled how he almost used a no-mint mark penny to pay for coffee, only stopping at the last second. That decision changed everything. Had he not noticed, the coin might never have been recognized as a $1 million find. These stories aren't just about money. They're about timing, luck, and the thrill of discovery, and the market only continues to grow. As more collectors hunt for these rare pennies, the demand pushes the value higher. Dealers pay premiums for verified coins, and auctions become battlegrounds where fortunes are made in moments. Every 1979 no-mint mark penny has the potential to be that once-in-a-lifetime find. It's not just about collecting coins. It's about uncovering a secret history, a hidden treasure buried in plain sight. Look carefully at the date, 1979, and make sure there is no mint mark. Inspect Lincoln's profile. The lines should be crisp and the details sharp. Examine the edges for wear, and check the back for consistent details in the wheat stalks or design elements. Any deviations from the standard 1979 penny could signal a rare find. If it matches these characteristics, you may be holding a coin that dealers dream about. The excitement is palpable because the story is still unfolding. Every day, more collectors check their change, more coins are authenticated, and more stories of million-dollar finds emerge. One man's pocket change became a miracle. One coin can still change a life today. Imagine the possibilities, the moment of discovery, and the realization that your ordinary penny could be worth an extraordinary fortune. Yet today, collectors whisper about it like a ghost story. A 2000 Lincoln penny, face value 1 cent, selling for as high as $1.2 million. And the most shocking part? It looks almost ordinary. The kind of coin that could be sitting in your pocket right now, unnoticed, forgotten, waiting. Imagine a coin so subtle, so deceptively normal, that even seasoned collectors have overlooked it. That's what makes this story unbelievable. One man in Colorado thought his penny was nothing special. He'd received it as change from a gas station. He almost left it in the cup holder of his car. But something about the shine, the lettering, the slightest misalignment of detail, it made him pause. And that pause changed his life forever. But let's go back. Because this story begins inside the Denver Mint itself, the year 2000 was supposed to be routine. Billions of pennies were struck that year. The country was celebrating the new millennium. The world was moving fast. And the machines inside the mint were running at full speed to keep up. But high speed is dangerous. Sometimes, when pressure is high and metal meets metal, something goes wrong. A die shifts. A planchet isn't the right composition. A press misfires by a fraction of a second. And when that happens, one coin, one out of billions, becomes something else. Something rare. Something history-changing. The whispers started among coin specialists first. A few pennies from the 2000 D batch didn't look like the others. The strikes were sharper. The plating looked different. Some showed doubling so precise that it was almost artistic. These weren't just errors. These were perfect accidents. But the public didn't know. Not yet. Because the most valuable finds in coin collecting don't start with auctions or press releases. They start with someone saying, "Wait, this looks strange." But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The first certified discovery of this rare 2000 D penny didn't come from a dealer, a shop, or a wealthy collector. It came from a man who didn't even consider himself a collector. He'd simply noticed something unique about the lettering on the word Liberty. The edges appeared raised, almost layered. The date, 2000, had a shadow-like doubling effect if you tilted it under the light. And Lincoln's profile was more defined than usual. Sharper, almost sculpted that he sent the coin in to be graded, just to be sure. The wait was agonizing. Weeks. He thought he was being foolish. He thought nothing would come of it. Until the phone call, the voice on the line was stunned. Quiet at first, then firm. He didn't. Nobody does, in that moment. They told him his penny wasn't just rare. It was one of the finest known. The kind that collectors fight over. The kind that doesn't just break records, it rewrites them. And when the bidding started, it was like watching lightning strike. First $50,000, then $150,000. The room buzzed. People whispered. Phones rang. Bidders joined from overseas. It crossed $300,000, then $600,000, then $900,000, until the hammer finally fell for over $1 million. For a penny, 1 cent, and that sale sent shockwaves through the hobby. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were suddenly searching through bins of pennies they'd ignored for years. People who hadn't looked at coins since childhood were digging through drawers, jars, old coffee cans, dusty basement boxes, because now they knew something powerful. You don't find this coin because you're lucky. You find it because you look. But the story grows deeper still, because not every 2000 D penny is valuable. Most are worth exactly 1 cent. So what makes this one different? Why did that coin sell for over $1 million while the billions of others didn't? The answer lies in what very few people ever look closely enough to see. This coin shows a dramatic, unmistakable doubling, especially on the date and the word Liberty. When tilted under good lighting, the numbers look almost layered, like a faint echo of themselves. This is not damage. This is not wear. This is a minting error known as a doubled die, one of the most desirable and iconic types of errors in the coin world. But there's more. On the rarest examples, the plating is more reflective and has a smoother, cleaner finish than normal. Some experts believe a small sample was struck using fresh, highly polished dies before a final calibration, making these coins sharper, brighter, and perfectly detailed. These weren't trial strikes. They weren't prototypes. They were accidents of precision. A moment where everything lined up and then never lined up again. These coins most often appear in circulated condition. That means they've been used, spent, passed hand to hand without anyone realizing the fortune slipping through their fingers. They are already out there. In pockets, in bankrolls, in laundry machines, in glove compartments, in piggy banks, in old wedding ring dishes sitting by the sink, and they are waiting for someone who knows what to look for. Look closely at the date. You want to see clear doubling, almost like a shadow behind each number. Then check Liberty. On genuine examples, the letters look doubled or slightly split. Then examine Lincoln's profile under good light. The rare examples show extremely crisp details, especially around the beard, cheekbone, and jawline. Finally, make sure the mint mark is a D, struck in Denver. That if you see these signs, do not clean the coin. Do not polish it. Do not handle it too much. place it in a coin flip or a clean sleeve, and get it authenticated by a reputable grading service. And remember, the greatest treasure finders are not the ones who are lucky. They are the ones who pay attention. But instead, it sold at auction for over $1 million. A simple 1998 D Lincoln penny. A coin so ordinary that millions of people have seen it, used it, and ignored it, not realizing that a tiny detail hidden in plain sight could turn something worth 1 cent into a life-changing fortune. And what makes this story even more incredible is that the person who discovered it didn't know what they had. Not for days, not for weeks. They carried it, spent it, dropped it, picked it up, and almost lost it. It was just a penny. Or so they thought. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Because this coin, this tiny piece of copper, revealed something no one was expecting. A mistake. A flaw so rare, so mysterious, and so unbelievably valuable that collectors were willing to pay anything to get their hands on it. A penny that should have never existed. A penny that changed everything. Let's go back to where this story begins. The year was 1998. The Denver Mint was operating at full speed. Billions of pennies were flowing out of the presses. Most of them were perfectly normal. Most of them were destined for pockets, drawers, cash registers, and dusty jars that haven't been opened in decades. But in that enormous sea of coins, something slipped through. Something the mint didn't intend. Something that should have been caught. But it wasn't. One coin press, one die, one moment of imperfection, created one of the rarest Lincoln pennies of the modern age. A penny struck with a doubled design, a distorted and misplaced detail that shouldn't have been there. A doubling so subtle that most people would never notice unless they knew what to look for. And almost no one did. Dealers didn't talk about it. Collectors didn't search for it. No one knew at first. And that silence is what makes this story so powerful. Because when the first one finally surfaced, it didn't come from a collector's vault. It didn't come from a dealer's table. It didn't come from an auction house. It came from someone's pocket change. Someone who wasn't thinking about pennies at all. Someone who was just going about their life, doing what we all do every day, with no idea that $1 million treasure was literally slipping through their fingers. But the discovery didn't come suddenly. It came slowly, like a whisper, like a secret trying to reveal itself. They noticed something strange about the lettering, something that didn't look quite right, something that felt off. And curiosity took over. The coin wasn't thrown away. It wasn't spent. It wasn't lost. It was examined. And that moment changed everything. Because once that first collector confirmed that the doubling was real, that the mint mark placement was true, that this was no trick, no illusion, no damage, no counterfeit, the coin market exploded. Dealers were stunned. Experts were speechless. Collectors were desperate. And suddenly the 1998 D Lincoln penny was no longer just a coin. It was a mystery, a legend, a prize that only the most dedicated, the most passionate, the most determined searchers could ever hope to find. But here's where the story takes a breathtaking turn. Only a handful of these coins have ever been confirmed. Just a few. That's it. Out of billions minted, only a tiny fraction slipped through with this exact flaw. That means millions of people may have unknowingly spent them. Millions may still be sitting in jars, drawers, buckets, pockets, and old coffee cans in garages and basements all over America. And no one knows where the next one will appear. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Because the first high-grade example to hit auction didn't sell for $100, it didn't sell for $1,000, it didn't sell for $10,000, it sold for over $1 million. A penny. Worth more than a house, more than a luxury car, more than most people's entire retirement savings. 1 single cent that carried the weight of a dream. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on this coin. And coin hunters across the country started checking every penny they touched. But this story isn't just about rarity, it's about timing. Because this coin hides its value in a way that most people completely overlook. And here comes the part most collectors miss. The doubling on this coin is not loud, that it's not dramatic, that it's not something that jumps off the surface. It whispers. The doubling appears most clearly in the letters of the word liberty and sometimes shows near the date. It takes focus. It takes a steady eye. It takes patience. And most importantly, it takes belief. Because most people quit before they find something extraordinary. But the people who keep looking are the ones who change their lives. And now we get to the moment you've been waiting for. This is how you identify the 1998 D penny worth up to $1.30 million that you are looking for a very specific doubling. Look closely at the letters L, I, B, E, or T, Y. Look for extra thickness in the letters. Look for doubling that looks like a shadow directly behind the original line. Not a smear, not worn metal, not damage, but a second impression made during the minting process. Second, look at the date. The 1998 should show slight separation in the numbers under magnification. Third, the mint mark D should look crisp and properly aligned. If the D looks punched in later, it may be fake. The real one was struck in one motion at the mint. Avoid anything that looks scratched, bent, cleaned, polished, or artificially altered. Damage destroys value instantly. The highest value examples are the ones in near-perfect condition. Smooth surfaces, clear details, bright, original luster. But even a circulated example, even one with wear, can still sell for thousands. Because rarity beats condition when the rarity is extreme. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, waiting for the right pair of eyes to see it, waiting for the right moment, waiting for someone to believe that something extraordinary is still possible. Imagine holding a coin in your hand today, a simple Lincoln penny, and not knowing it could be the key to a life-changing fortune. The story begins quietly, hidden in plain sight, in pockets, drawers, and piggy banks across America. Most people pass by it every day, completely unaware that this tiny, copper disc carries the potential to make someone a millionaire. It all starts in 1981, the year when most pennies were ordinary, forgotten currency. But a handful of these pennies were different. During the minting process, a rare mistake occurred, subtle, almost invisible, but enough to make one variant shock the coin-collecting world decades later. Collectors would later call it the 1981 no mint mark error. And once people discovered it, the race to find one became almost frantic. The penny's journey from a routine circulation coin to a million-dollar treasure is as mysterious as it is thrilling. One collector, a man who had spent years combing through pocket change, stumbled upon his coin completely by accident. He wasn't hunting for rarity. He wasn't expecting a jackpot. He simply wanted a penny to complete his collection. But when he examined it under magnification, he noticed something that made his heart stop. The telltale signs of a coin that shouldn't exist. This coin wasn't just rare. It was unique. Its value lies in the subtle details, the almost invisible errors that the untrained eye would miss. Slight shifts in design, tiny misalignments, and the absence of a mint mark that should have been there. These are the secrets hidden on the surface of a coin that can be worth millions. Dealers were stunned when images of this penny circulated, and suddenly, everyone wanted a piece of the mystery. Auctions were packed with tense anticipation, collectors holding their breath as the bids climbed higher and higher. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these pennies, pulled from a dusty old jar in someone's kitchen, sold for over $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle overnight. Stories like this are why coin collecting is more than a hobby. It's a doorway to fortunes that seem impossible. Ordinary people, holding ordinary coins, discovering treasures that could change their lives forever. Collectors were shocked, not just by the price, but by the story. How could a penny minted decades ago, seemingly worthless to the average person, hold such astronomical value? The truth is that the rarity and the story behind the minting error create a perfect storm. It's not just the coin itself. It's the provenance, the auction drama, and the disbelief of the market all coming together in a single moment. Imagine for a moment the thrill of holding this penny. You can feel the weight of history, the copper gleam that hides a secret worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. Every detail matters. The smoothness of the surface, the subtle absence of a mint mark, the tiniest irregularity on Lincoln's profile. It's almost as if the coin is whispering, "I am rare, I am valuable, and I could be yours." This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. When you look at a 1981 penny, you're seeing thousands, maybe millions of them in circulation. But a no-mint mark error is like finding a needle in a haystack the size of a football field. It's rare. It's sought after. And when it appears, it doesn't just sit on a shelf. It changes the life of whoever recognizes its value. One man's discovery inspired a wave of excitement in the coin community. Collectors began checking jars, drawers, even the floors of their homes for forgotten pennies. Dealers started offering higher prices for coins that matched the description. Every time a no-mint mark penny appeared, it became an event, a spectacle of disbelief, as everyone realized how elusive this treasure really was. But even knowing what to look for isn't enough. Many people dismiss pennies without inspecting them closely, passing by potential fortunes in pocket change or coin rolls. The coin's subtlety is part of the charm. It looks ordinary at first glance, but under careful examination, its extraordinary value emerges. The penny story also carries a lesson about timing and luck. The 1981 no-mint mark coin could have been discarded, melted down, or lost forever, yet some survived, patiently waiting for a collector to recognize their worth. That combination of rarity, timing, and careful observation is what transforms a simple coin into a million-dollar masterpiece. Imagine the tension at auctions when one of these coins appears. The gavel falls, the room holds its breath, and suddenly, a life is changed forever. That's the power of the 1981 no-mint mark penny. An ordinary object with extraordinary potential, a tiny disc holding secrets worth over $1 million. Here's how you can identify this exact coin. Look closely at the obverse, Lincoln's face. Check for the absence of a mint mark, no D for Denver, no S for San Francisco. Examine the edges and surfaces for subtle irregularities, small doubling, faint shifts, or uneven strikes that hint at the minting error. Compare it to a standard 1981 penny, and you'll begin to see why collectors have gone into a frenzy over these coins. Avoid confusing it with worn or damaged pennies, because where doesn't create value, minting errors do. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins because they know the stakes. One coin can sell for hundreds of thousands, even $1 million, overnight. And the best part is, the coin could be sitting anywhere, in your pocket, your jar of loose change, or a forgotten drawer. Ordinary coins hold extraordinary secrets. The 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is proof that fortunes hide in plain sight, waiting for someone with a sharp eye and a bit of luck. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Tiny brown penny, barely noticed, passed from hand to hand, sitting in pockets, glove compartments, and junk drawers across America, and yet one of these ordinary-looking 1990 pennies sold for nearly $1 million. And today, new collectors believe another example could be worth up to $1.4 million if discovered in the right condition. Most people still have no idea it even exists. This isn't a rumor. It isn't a myth. It's one of the most shocking minting mistakes in modern American history. And the most unbelievable part? You could actually find one. There's something mysterious about the coins we carry. They're silent witnesses to our lives. They travel through families, across states, through decades, absorbing the stories of America. But sometimes, one of these coins carries a secret the world nearly overlooks. And when that secret finally comes to light, everything changes. But let's start at the moment the coin world realized something extraordinary had happened. Picture this. It's 1990. The United States Mint is producing coins for circulation, just like it always has. Billions of pennies are flowing from presses in Philadelphia and Denver. Each Philadelphia penny should have no mint mark, as usual. But the special proof sets made for collectors? Those were being made at the San Francisco Mint. Those proof coins were supposed to have a tiny letter S on the front, sitting proudly beneath the date, marking their birthplace. The S meant quality, rarity, perfection. Collectors wanted that S dot, but then something went wrong. Somehow, in the polished, carefully controlled environment of the San Francisco Mint, a set of proof dies used to stamp those collectible pennies was missing that tiny little S. No one caught it. The presses ran. These coins were sealed into proof sets. They were shipped to collectors. Sold. Stored. Forgotten. A mint error so small that the entire United States Mint missed it. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Months later, a collector was going through his proof set, enjoying the shine of the mirror-like finish on each coin. The perfect frosting on Lincoln's portrait. The deep reflective surfaces. Proof sets are beautiful. They're made that way on purpose. But the collector noticed something. Something was missing. He looked again. He cleaned his glasses. He held the coin under a lamp. The S was gone. No mint mark. A proof coin with no mint mark should not exist. It shouldn't be possible. It broke every rule of proof production. Collectors were shocked. Dealers started whispering. The news spread. And suddenly, everybody wanted one. But here's where this story becomes unbelievable. Only a very small number of these 1990 no-mint mark proof pennies were ever released. Some estimate fewer than 200. Some say fewer than 150. No one knows the true number. That tiny error turned this coin from common pocket change into a treasure that could change someone's life. And when one of these coins surfaced in pristine condition, it sold for nearly $1 million. Today, experts believe the next one to hit the market in top grade could reach up to $1.4 million. $1 million for a penny. Imagine a man sorting through old proof sets he inherited from his grandfather. He's thinking maybe they're worth a few dollars. Maybe they'll be a nice keepsake. And then he sees it. A missing mint mark. One small detail, and suddenly his family's financial future is rewritten forever. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. But it gets even better and even stranger. Many of these proof sets were stored in attics, closets, safety deposit boxes. Some were opened and examined once, then tucked away again. Others were given as gifts and forgotten. And while dealers and collectors know the legend of the 1990 no-mint mark penny, the general public has no idea. Right now, there could be hundreds of untouched 1990 proof sets in homes across America. Your parents could have one. Your grandparents. You may have walked past one at a yard sale, at a flea market, on eBay, sitting unnoticed, mislabeled, forgotten. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector said he almost threw his proof set away because he thought it wasn't valuable anymore. But he didn't. Something told him to look again. And when he found the missing mint mark, he burst into tears. But what makes this story so powerful is not just the rarity, but the human feeling behind it. The idea that life-changing opportunities don't always look like gold bars or treasure chests. Sometimes they look like something small, something ordinary, something we almost ignore. A penny. Collectors describe holding this coin as surreal. Their hands shake. They breathe differently because they know what it means. They know what it represents. A moment of impossible luck. A story that becomes family history. And a doorway to a future that once felt out of reach. But here is where most people go wrong. They hear about million-dollar coins and they go searching through regular pennies they find in change. But the only real 1990 no-mint mark penny worth this kind of money is the proof version. Not the regular one. Not the one you find in jars or pockets or on the street. The one worth up to $1.4 million only appears in the mirrored, collector-made proof sets from the San Francisco Mint. You must look at the finish. The coin should shine like a mirror. The background is reflective, deep, almost like glass. Lincoln's portrait will look frosted, almost glowing. That's a proof finish. Then look at the date. 1990. Then look just below the date, on the front of the coin, to the right of Lincoln's portrait. You should see a mint mark. It should say S if it's a normal proof. But on the $1 million one, there is no S. No letter. Just the date. Smooth. Empty. If you see that missing mint mark, you may be holding one of the rarest Lincoln cents in existence. Do not clean the coin. Do not rub it. Do not wash it. Do not polish it. Do not try to improve it. Cleaning destroys value. Put it in a soft holder and have a professional evaluate it, because the difference between a damaged coin and a pristine one could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. Proof sets from the 1990s are everywhere. Estate sales, thrift stores, yard sales, old relatives' collections, pawn shops, storage units, online listings where the seller doesn't even know. But the moment a sharp-eyed collector recognized what it really was, everything changed. That simple penny, with no mint mark, struck in 1972, sold for enough to buy a house, multiple cars, even change a family's entire future. Some examples have been valued up to $1.5 million. And right now, one of these could be sitting quietly in your home, hiding among a lifetime of loose change. But the real story is how this penny came to exist in the first place, and how almost nobody knew about it when it first emerged. The year was 1972. The United States Mint in Philadelphia was running at a relentless pace. Billions of pennies needed to be struck to feed the daily river of commerce across the nation. Workers moved with speed, machines thundered, and dies wore down faster than anyone cared to admit. Somewhere in the middle of this hectic production, one die, the steel stamp used to strike the image of Lincoln, was misaligned during its creation. Instead of receiving one clean, centered impression of the design, the die was struck twice, but slightly off the first time. A double impression, a double die, not just any double die, though. This one was bold, dramatic, clear, the kind of doubling that jumps out at you once you know how to look. The date, 1972, appears almost like a shadow is hovering behind it. The letters in Liberty stretch ever so slightly into a doubled outline. Even the phrase "I in God we trust" shows this bizarre, haunting echo. But when these pennies rolled off the minting presses, nobody noticed. They were sent into circulation, mixed with normal pennies, dropped into pockets, registers, piggy banks, vending machines, everyday life. Years passed. Pennies were spent, collected, lost, forgotten. And that's where the legend began. Point one man. An ordinary collector, someone who checked their change out of habit more than expectation, spotted something strange on his humble copper penny. He leaned closer. His breath caught. The date looked wrong. The numbers had an outline, a shadow. But what he did next stunned the entire coin world. He didn't tell a soul. Not at first. He held on to it, studied it, researched it. And finally, when the time was right, he brought it to experts. And those experts were left speechless. This was no ordinary penny. This was one of the boldest double die errors ever discovered in a modern coin. When word hit the community, collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. Everyone wanted one. And suddenly, people everywhere began digging through their change, searching, hoping, dreaming. A penny, a single penny, had turned into a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. But this is where the story takes an even more dramatic turn. You see, not all 1972 double die pennies are created equal. Some are weak, minor, barely noticeable without magnification. Those coins are interesting, sure, but they're not the ones that spark the bidding wars. The true treasure is the bold variety, the strong double die. The doubling so obvious that once you see it, you can't unsee it. This is the version that has brought $1 million attention. The version that has sold at major auctions and left collectors whispering about the next one that might be waiting to be found. And here's the part most people don't know. This coin is still out there. Not all have been found. Not even close. Think about it. Most people never check their change. Most people let coins pile up in drawers, jars, glove compartments, old boxes and closets. A treasure hiding in plain sight. A ticket to a life-changing discovery tossed aside because nobody believed a penny could be worth life-changing money. But it can. And it has. Because what happened next only fueled the legend. Years after the first discoveries, another collector stumbled upon one. Not in a coin shop. Not in a collection. Just in their daily change. And when they verified it, collectors and dealers rushed to buy it. The bidding grew intense. Dealers fought. Bidders pushed limits. And the world watched as one of the humblest coins in American coinage once again broke expectations. And here's where the dream becomes personal. Imagine opening an old jar of pennies on your shelf. Pennies you haven't looked at in years. Pennies from your parents, your grandparents, your childhood. Imagine flipping one over, seeing the date, and feeling your heart stop. Imagine that sudden moment where time slows and your mind realizes, this could be it. But before you start searching, listen carefully. Because the identification step is everything. 1972. No mint mark under it. That means it was minted in Philadelphia. Hold it under a strong light. Look closely at the numbers. The doubling should be clear, strong, and unmistakable. The 1, the 9, the 7, the 2. Each should appear with a shadow-like second outline. Then look at Liberty on the left side. The letters should show that same dramatic doubling, almost like they're printed twice. And finally, look at "I in God we trust" above Lincoln's head. If the doubling is bold, pronounced, and obvious even without magnification, you may be holding the rare variety, the one that has made auction history. Many people mistake normal machine doubling for a true double die. Machine doubling looks flat, shelf-like, and thin. The real double die looks rounded, full, thick, as if two images were layered slightly apart. If you think you found one, handle it carefully. Do not clean it. Do not rub it. Do not try to shine it. Cleaning coins destroys value instantly. Place it gently in a small container or coin flip. Then take it to a reputable dealer, coin show, or send it to a professional grading service. This coin has changed lives. It has stunned experts. It has ignited bidding wars. It has turned small change into large fortune. And it continues to hide in everyday pockets across America, waiting to be found. Not every day in life gives you a chance to turn something ordinary into something extraordinary. A simple penny, forgotten in a jar, ignored for years until one collector realized what he was holding. And when the bidding started, the room went silent. This wasn't just any penny. This was a 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent that would go on to sell for a life-changing fortune, almost $1 million. And now, experts believe another example, possibly even worth up to $1.6 million, could still be out there, hiding in plain sight. At the mint mark, the tiny letter on coins that tells where it was made. Denver, Philadelphia, San Francisco. These marks are usually so small, most of us overlook them. But in 1980, something unusual happened at the Philadelphia Mint. For the first time, Philadelphia was supposed to start putting mint marks on Lincoln pennies. A small P was required. But for a very short period, a batch of pennies appears to have left the mint without that mark. No P, no D, no S. Just Lincoln's portrait on one side and the memorial on the other. Plain, unmarked, and unbelievably rare. Many collectors didn't even realize it at first. After all, for decades Philadelphia coins had no mint mark anyway. So when 1980 rolls around, most people weren't watching closely. Pennies were changing hands daily. Register drawers, pockets, coffee shops, gas stations. No one suspected a miracle was in circulation. And because no one expected it, no one saved them. Now imagine this scene. A hobbyist collector in the late 1990s sits at his kitchen table. He's sorting through jars of change, just looking for older wheat cents. Nothing special, just a relaxing evening pastime. He sees a penny that looks off. The details around the date are sharper. The luster is different. The rim is clean. He flips it, looks again. No mint mark. But that shouldn't exist for 1980, he remembers. Something in his gut says, this is different. He puts it aside, carefully. He almost forgets about it. Months pass. One afternoon, curiosity gets the better of him. He takes it to a local coin dealer just to ask a question. The dealer holds the coin, looks again, and again. He doesn't speak for a moment. Then he says quietly, "You need to get this authenticated." Immediately. This was the moment everything changed. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The coin was verified as a 1980 Philadelphia cent that was missing the required mint mark. A coin that technically should not exist. A coin that represented a small but crucial minting oversight. A coin now considered so uncommon that most experts had only heard rumors of its existence. Once the grading came back, the collector sat in disbelief. High grade, sharp strike, virtually untouched by circulation. A once-in-a-lifetime survival. When the auction was announced, collectors, dealers, investors, everyone in the numismatic world watched. This wasn't just a penny anymore. This was history. When the hammer fell, the price was staggering. People who once thought pennies were worthless suddenly realized the truth. Value is not always about denomination. It is about rarity, condition, and story. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. But here's where things take a breathtaking turn. That coin wasn't alone. Experts believe several more exist. Possibly hundreds once did. Most are lost, spent, damaged, melted, forgotten. But a few might still be out there, sitting quietly in boxes, coin jars, drawers, or old collections that no one has opened in decades. This is the moment where everything becomes real. Because now the question is no longer, did one exist? The question is the next one in your possession? Dealers are now paying attention. Collectors are scrutinizing every 1980 penny they come across. And some of the most respected grading companies in the United States have issued alerts encouraging the public to check their pennies for this exact anomaly. In 1980, the mint mark should appear just below the date, slightly to the right. A small P. If it's missing, you must look very closely at the area. A true no-mint mark coin will show no trace of the letter. No faint outline. No worn stamping. No ghosting. Just smooth metal as if the mint mark was never punched onto the die in the first place. But there is something else you must look for: sharp detail. A true rarity like this is almost always found in high grade because if it's circulated heavily, the fine details wear away. The steps on the Lincoln Memorial. The clarity of the lettering. The crisp lines around Lincoln's coat and jawline. If those are sharp, you may be holding something extraordinary. Collectors were shocked when the first example sold. Dealers were stunned when rumors of additional discoveries surfaced. And now, there are whispers, quiet but persistent, that one example in nearly pristine condition could be worth up to $1.6 million if it ever reaches auction today. But what makes this even more fascinating is the emotional part of it. This isn't just a story of money. It's about what's still possible in America. The idea that a life-changing discovery doesn't have to come from a lottery ticket, a lucky business move, or pure luck. Sometimes, it comes from something as ordinary as a penny that everyone else overlooked, a penny that waited for the right eyes to see it. And now, maybe that pair of eyes is yours. So here is exactly how to check. Find a 1980 Lincoln cent. Look directly under the date. You should see a mint mark. Most will show a D for Denver. Some will show nothing, but worn mint marks can fade. A real no mint mark will show no evidence of stamping. The area around the date should be smooth and clean. Then look at the coin's condition. If it looks nearly new, sharply struck, preserved, and untouched by time, that is when you get it professionally graded. Do not clean the coin. Do not polish it. Do not try to make it look better. Cleaning destroys value instantly. If it looks promising, store it safely, handle only by the edges, and send it to a reputable grading company. But when he took a closer look, when he noticed one tiny detail, that same penny led to a discovery that stunned coin collectors across the country. Because it wasn't just any penny. It was a 1993 no mint mark Lincoln cent, a coin that has been documented selling for life-changing money in the realm of $1 million and more. And today, we're going to talk about how that happened, why it happened, and how you can check your pocket change for one right now. There's a reason collectors call this coin the silent miracle. It hides in plain sight. It's small. It's brown. It's ordinary. The kind of penny that gets lost in couch cushions, stuck under floor mats, or tossed into coin jars without a second thought. Nobody thinks twice about a 1993 penny. And that's exactly why people overlook it. They walk past it every single day. But what made this coin different was what was missing. Something that most people don't even notice, even though it's right there in front of them. The year was 1993. The United States Mint was producing Lincoln cents like it had done for decades. Billions of them. Endless rivers of copper-plated zinc coins flowing across the country. Nothing unusual. Nothing extraordinary. But deep inside the production lines, something unexpected happened. A very small number of dies were prepared without the mint mark that should have been there. These weren't test strikes. These weren't intentionally blank dies. These were regular production dies that somehow ended up missing their identifying mark. And when the press struck those coins, they slipped into circulation unnoticed. Collectors didn't know. Dealers didn't know. The mint didn't even realize it until years later. Most of these coins were spent on gum, groceries, bus fare, or soda. They were pocket change. Forgotten. But a handful survived. And years later, when one finally resurfaced, it sent shockwaves across the entire coin world. Because the example discovered wasn't just rare. It wasn't just unusual. It was in near-perfect condition. The kind of condition that makes collectors fight, bid, chase, and outspend one another for the chance to own something that almost shouldn't exist. The bidding war was fierce. Nobody wanted to back down. They knew what they were looking at. They knew what it meant. And when the final number flashed on the screen, collectors were speechless. That penny, that ordinary-looking little coin, sold for a figure that most people only dream of seeing in their lifetime. A figure so high that news outlets had to verify it twice. A life-changing amount of money. We're talking close to $1.7 million for a single penny. And just like that, the legend of the 1993 no mint mark Lincoln penny was born. But here's where the story gets even stranger, because unlike other million-dollar coins, this one doesn't look flashy. It doesn't look unusual. It doesn't have a dramatic error like a double-struck portrait or a missing layer of metal. It looks normal. It looks like every other penny in your pocket. And that's what makes this so dangerous, so thrilling, so unbelievably exciting. Anyone could have it. The barber, the truck driver, the guy bagging groceries, your own grandfather's coin jar, your daughter's piggy bank. People have spent years hunting for this coin. Some have searched millions of pennies. Some have given up and walked away. But others still believe. They believe that somewhere out there, one more example is waiting to be found. Maybe 2, maybe 5, maybe 10. We don't know how many survived, and the mystery only increases the desire. But here is where the story takes its most dramatic turn, because the key to identifying this coin is not just the missing mint mark. That's where most people get it wrong. In 1993, the Philadelphia Mint was still producing pennies without a mint mark. So just seeing no mint mark doesn't automatically mean you found the rare one. If it did, we'd all be millionaires already. The true key is in the clarity of the strike and the condition of the coin. The rare documented examples that sold for extraordinary money were struck unusually sharply, using dies prepared for extremely limited test or proof-like runs. That means the design elements are crisp. The lettering is razor clean. Lincoln's hair detail is sharp and pronounced. The coin almost looks like it has a slight satin or proof-like finish, not dull, scratched, or worn down. Look closely at the date. The 1, the 9, the 9, and the 3 should all appear deep, bold, and evenly struck, with no distortion or weakness. Even the tiniest difference in how those numbers were formed can tell the difference between an ordinary penny worth 1 cent and a silent treasure worth more than $1 million. Collectors know that condition is everything. That is why the one that sold at auction was a miracle. It had survived 3 decades of circulation without ever being scratched, dinged, or worn down. Think about how impossible that is. How many coins do you see in perfect shape? Almost none, but that means something powerful. The next one, the next treasure, is probably sitting somewhere protected. Maybe in a collection, maybe in a coin album, maybe someone saved it without even knowing why. Maybe it was pulled from circulation the moment it was minted because something about it just looked different. That I want you to imagine opening your old coin jar, the one you haven't touched in years, digging through pennies, flicking one aside after another. Ordinary, ordinary, ordinary. And then, one coin catches the light just a little differently. The surfaces are clean, the details sharp, no mint mark. And suddenly, your heart starts pounding, because now you know you could be holding a fortune in the palm of your hand. Check your pennies. Look at the date 1993. Look for no mint mark. Look for sharp, bold detail. And if you find one in crisp, high-grade condition, stop everything. Do not spend it. Do not clean it. Do not handle it carelessly. Put it in a protective sleeve and get a professional grading company involved immediately. Yet one exactly like it has shocked collectors by reaching a value up to $1.8 million. And the part that sends chills down your spine is this. It was hiding in ordinary pocket change, not locked in a museum, not stored in a collector's vault, just sitting in someone's home, waiting to be noticed. Now imagine this. You're emptying your pockets at the end of the day. Keys, receipts, loose change. You don't think twice. But there it is. One penny that doesn't look like the others. Slightly different. Slightly older. Slightly off. A penny so rare that dealers are practically begging to buy it. A penny so shocking that it made grown collectors freeze in disbelief. This is the story of the 1982 no mint mark Lincoln penny. And if you've ever wondered whether hidden treasure still exists in everyday life, this might be the closest thing to real modern treasure we have. But to understand why this simple, ordinary-looking penny can be worth a fortune, we need to go back to a year of change, confusion, and mistakes that no one expected. The United States Mint was facing a crisis. The cost of copper was rising. Every penny being produced was costing the government almost twice what the coin was worth. It was a disaster. So the Mint made a decision. A dramatic one. They began switching the penny's composition from solid copper to a copper-coated zinc core. And that's where the chaos began, because 1982 wasn't just 1 year. It was a storm, a messy transition. During that time, multiple versions of the penny were made. Some were copper, some were zinc, some had large dates, some had small dates, some were minted in Philadelphia, some were minted in Denver. It was the perfect breeding ground for confusion and for mistakes. But one mistake stands above the rest. A mistake so subtle, so tiny, that it escaped the eyes of nearly everyone. The 1982 copper penny with no mint mark minted in Philadelphia. But here's the twist. Not just any copper penny. The rare version with the small date. A version that was never intended to exist in the final production run. Collectors didn't even realize it was out there at first. No announcements were made. No warnings. No records clearly explaining the variations. This coin slipped through the cracks of history, into circulation, into people's hands, into pockets and jars and coffee cans across America. And for years, no one knew. But when the first authenticated example appeared, the coin world exploded. Collectors were shocked. Dealers scrambled. Auction houses got phone calls they had never expected. Suddenly, an ordinary penny, a coin worth 1 cent, was being discussed like a legendary lost artifact. The kind that changes a person's life overnight. And then the moment happened. A private sale. Quiet. Discreet. But the whispers spread. The figure was staggering. Up to $1.8 million for one single penny. Just think about that number. A penny worth nearly $2 million. You could hold your retirement, your children's future, and your wildest dreams in the palm of your hand and not even realize it. Most 1982 pennies are zinc, but the rare one is solid copper. That alone is unusual for this specific variation. The numerals on this coin are shaped in the small date style. Sharper, thinner, more delicate. Most regular coins from this year use the large date style. The small date is the giveaway, and most people don't even know to look for it. Survival. Very, very few of these coins were made. And almost all that were made ended up being spent, used, scratched, dented, or worn down. Which means that finding one in decent condition is like finding a firefly in a dark field in winter. But here's the twist that stunned the entire coin world. The average person can't tell the difference just by glancing at it. If you're not looking closely, it just looks like another penny. Which means that right now, right this second, someone in America might be holding one. And they have no idea. So imagine this scene. A man in Ohio is going through his old childhood coin jar. Something he kept for decades. A jar filled with memories. He turns one penny over and feels something. A detail. A weight. A look. Something that just feels different. He checks the date. 1982. No mint mark. Small date. He weighs it. And his heart stops. He had been holding a life-changing miracle for over 30 years. This is not a fantasy. This is not a story created for excitement. This is real. And this brings us to you. You do not need to be a professional collector to find one. You do not need special equipment. You do not need rare access or connections. All you need is attention and patience. So here is exactly how you identify this coin. Look for the date. It must read 1982. Look under the date. Make sure there is no P, no D, no mint mark at all. If there is any mint mark, this is not the $1 million version. Look at the style of the date. The small date numerals are thinner and more delicate. On the small date, the 2 curves smooth and elegant. The top of the 8 aligns almost perfectly with the top of the 1. On the large date, the numerals look bulkier, thicker, heavier. Step 4. The most important test. Weight. You must weigh the coin on a precise scale. A copper penny from 1982 weighs about 3.11 grams. A zinc penny weighs around 2.5 grams. If your coin is the small date version, no mint mark, and weighs around 3.11 grams, you may be holding the treasure, not just a valuable coin, a once-in-a-generation discovery, a penny worth up to $1 million, a penny that could erase debts, rewrite futures, and turn an ordinary moment into a story your family will tell for generations. So before you spend that change, before you toss those pennies aside, before you forget the smallest coin in your hand. But when it surfaced, when someone finally took a second look, it sold for nearly $1 million. A 1977 Lincoln penny, with no mint mark, hiding in plain sight the whole time. Millions of Americans have handled this exact coin. It passed through grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, church donation plates, and pockets of people who never suspected a thing. But one collector finally realized what he had. And everything changed. Let's go back to where this mystery begins. It's 1977. The U.S. Mint is mass-producing billions of pennies. Copper was still used back then. The coins were heavy, warm in color, rich, and easy to overlook because everyone saw them every day. But something unusual happened at the Philadelphia Mint. A run of pennies was struck with a tiny flaw. Not the missing mint mark itself. That part was normal for Philadelphia, but something deeper, hidden in the design, the metal, the way the coin was struck. Something so subtle most collectors walked right past it for decades. One coin, though one single coin, showed signs of a double strike so faint that only the most trained eyes can see it. The letters on the date, the word Liberty, the faint doubling along the edges of Lincoln's profile. It didn't look like a mistake. It looked like a ghost, a shadow of another strike behind the real one. But no one noticed until a man sorting through his childhood coin jar, years after his father passed, spotted something odd. He didn't rush. He didn't shout. He simply paused and looked closer. He ran his thumb across the date, 1977. This was just a penny, the kind that falls between seats and gets swept up with crumbs and lint. But curiosity whispered louder. This tiny hesitation changed everything. He consulted a local dealer, who nearly dropped the coin the moment he saw it. The dealer's hands started shaking. His voice cracked. His breathing changed. He knew what he was looking at, and he knew what it meant. Because this coin didn't just have doubling, that it had the kind of doubling that occurs when a coin die is being prepared incorrectly. A rare, extremely valuable mint error known as a doubled die. The kind collectors dream about. The kind worth tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and in one documented case, almost $1 million. The dealer told him this could be historic. The kind of discovery that gets talked about for generations. The collector thought his father's old coin jar was just sentimental. He never imagined it was a treasure chest. This was no ordinary penny. This was $1 million miracle hiding in plain sight. Collectors were shocked. Appraisers flew in. Auction houses whispered. Rumors spread through coin shows, through back rooms, through online forums where experts argued late into the night. Some doubted. Some denied. Some insisted it was impossible for a 1977 Lincoln penny with no mint mark to be worth that kind of money. Until the bidding started, the auction room was silent except for the low hum of whispered disbelief. People watched with wide eyes and clenched breaths. The bidding leaped instantly to tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and then that number, that dreamlike moment where a coin that cost 1 cent crossed the threshold into the realm of $1 million. One man's pocket change became a life-altering discovery, the kind people dream about when they open their wallets or empty their pockets at night. But this wasn't luck alone. It was awareness, attention, a second look at something that most people would ignore, because the most valuable treasures are often the ones we overlook. Now here's where things get even more intense. Most people think the only valuable pennies are the ones from the 1940s or earlier, the wheat cents, the steel pennies, or the legendary 1909 SVDB. But that mindset leaves modern treasure sitting unnoticed everywhere. The 1977 penny is proof. A coin modern enough to still show up in your change today. And yet, the window to find these coins is closing. Many have already been discovered, collected, auctioned, or lost forever. The remaining examples, the few that are still out there, are more valuable than ever. But here's the part most people miss. You don't find this coin by looking for the missing mint mark. Philadelphia pennies from 1977 never had one. The mint mark isn't the treasure. The treasure is in the details, the doubling, the strike, the edges, the shape of the letters. If you want to know exactly what to look for, listen closely. Hold the coin under strong light. Tilt it. Rotate it slowly. Watch the date. The sevens are the key. On the double die version, you'll see a slight shadow effect, a doubling that appears almost like a thin outline behind the digits. It's subtle, the kind of detail most people never notice unless they've learned how to see it. Now look at Liberty. This word is known for showing doubling clarity. If the letters seem slightly thicker, stretched, or shadowed, that's your signal. Then check the phrase "In God We Trust." If the letters look almost echoed, like a whisper of the same shape behind them, you may be holding something extraordinary. The last test is condition. If the coin still has strong detail, little wear, and sharp edges, the value skyrockets. You don't sell it to the first person you meet. You don't list it online casually. You don't take it to a pawn shop. You get it authenticated and graded by a top-tier service. Because once that label is printed, the coin's value becomes locked, recognized, official. Your life could change in the space of one auctioneer's hammer. Your mailbox could hold a check with more zeros than you've ever seen before. Your story could spread through the collecting community, just like the one we talked about. And your old jar of pennies, your coffee can of change, your forgotten drawer of coins, could become a legend. Because the next $1 million 1977 Lincoln penny with no mint mark hasn't been found yet. And it could be anywhere. It could be at the bottom of a purse, in a kitchen junk drawer, in a car cup holder, sitting on a dusty shelf in a garage, or in your hand, right now, waiting for you to look.